Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We are back with Bold Chats number 10. And with that being said, just a brief introduction for all of us. My name is Rebecca Carew, and I am a French horn player in New York City in the New Jersey area. And I'm one of the founders here at Brass Out Loud. Kate and Melissa, do you want to introduce yourselves really quick?
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Melissa Munoz. I'm a trumpet player and another co founder of Brass Out Loud. Very excited to be back with our Bold Chats.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Amaran. I am also a trumpet player based in New York City. I am a teacher, freelancer, all of that good stuff, and super pumped to be here for Bold Chats.
Awesome. So, just a couple of things before we officially begin. A couple things to mention. We will be dropping a couple of links. One will be to donate to Brass Out Loud, our organization, which you can do either via our website or via the link that we will be posting. And the other link will be to donate to the Met musicians. And with that being said, today we have Hugo Valverde with us. Another horn player at the Met, and we would love to, get to the chat. So, Hugo, if you don't mind just giving us a brief introduction of yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Rebecca, Melissa, and Kate for the invitation. Very excited to be here and to talk about just anything. And thank you for including the musicians link. It means a lot to us. When wherever the help comes from, it means a lot.
Yeah, we're all in this together. So if we can all support each other and uplift each other, I think that's the best thing we can do.
It is.
Oh, okay, let's get into it. So, Ugo, can you tell us a little bit about your musical upbringing in Costa Rica?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I come from a very small town in the mountains of Costa Rica. I'm actually in my house right now. Um, it's music here is basically what you hear on the radio, and that's it, which is mostly Latin music. um I mean, all over the place, but classical music isn't quite prepared in Costa Rica. But the thing is that my parents love classical music. They were always listening to the classical music station on the radio. And in fact, my dad he plays trumpet. He's not a professional trumpet player, but he still plays the trumpet. So listening to him practice when I was a little kid, um, and also when he would bring me to the concerts of my hometown's band, like that close um, relationship with the music that I had since very little meant a lot, because there was one day that I told my parents that I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to play an instrument. And they were like, well, I mean, if you want to play an instrument, that's totally great. We will support you. And so they enrolled me in my hometown's school of music. And my hometown is called Barba. And it's a very small town, but very cute small town with a music school over there. And a lot of kids go there just to learn how to read music. But most of them uh, just stay there for, I don't know, a number of years, maybe 4 years, and that's it. And they go to other, take up on other careers. But I was one of the few ones that really kept going with music, because at first, of course, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to be told, "Hey, you gotta go practice. You gotta go learn your lessons, whatever." But then as I got better, I was like, "Okay, I want to do this. I will do this for." So that's how it started. I was there for 4 years in the music school in my hometown. Then I went to the musical institute in the capital of San Jose, and that changed my life, because while I was there, I got to play with the other ensembles of the institute, and also with the orchestra, National Symphony Orchestra of Costa Rica. And I started playing both assistant and second horn positions. So I remember just being like mesmerized by the fact that a lot of people were playing music at such high level, and seeing the conductors and everything. So I told my teacher that I wanted to do the exact same thing. My teacher is the principal horn of the orchestra, great friend of mine. And he said, well, if you want to do this, then there's only one way. You know, you're going to have to work really hard, but I will help you. If you're committed to do this, I will help you out. And yeah, I mean, we would play classical concerts, and also we would go to the schools around the area playing Costa Rican music, you know, and those were the kids' concerts. So we would play a piece and say, okay, in this part, the horn section would play the theme. So each section would play, and those concerts were were very great because actually I never got to see one, but when I was a kid with the orchestra, I got to see the band. But then when I saw the orchestra, I was like, okay, I like this. I like this. So I felt like home when playing in the orchestra. So yeah, I mean, that was basically my upbringing here in Costa Rica. It started in my hometown. Then I went to the Music Institute and was there for another 4 years until 2012. And then in 2012, that's when I went to the United States. But that's basically, you know, how I was introduced into the music.
I love that. And it's such a perfect segue to our next question. So, what were some of your challenges in moving to the US, and what were some of the most rewarding parts?
So the biggest challenge was to leave my country. You know, just once you leave where you're from, um, then you realize that you're not in the comfort zone anymore. And especially because of the language. I mean, I knew English, but it wasn't, um, you know, at the level that was expected to be in the university. So when I started at Lynn University in Florida, um, I was taking all the classes, you know, academics and music classes, but also an English reinforcement class because I had to do it. I had to just improve in some of the areas. And but that took about 1 year to be fully just confident and comfortable with my language, with the progress of my English learning. And yeah, I mean, and that, you know, that caused a lot of frustration at times that, you know, maybe in one of the classes I didn't understand what the teacher said. And I was like, I mean, I need to do this. I got an assignment to do. I got a homework, but then I also got to practice for my horn lessons. So I entered in a kind of like in a crisis period, in like in a couple of months. But then my teacher then really helped me out. He said, "Well, listen, when I heard you playing in Costa Rica, you know, like I knew that you had potential. You just have to be patient. You just have to, you know, like try to do everything well. Not only horn playing, not only theory classes, but also the academics and the English classes as well. Everything has to be done in a level that does represents the best of you." Because he said, if you do well in one thing, that is horn playing, but then really poorly in another class, that's not acceptable. So I took that very seriously. Even though it was difficult, I was, you know, able to achieve that by the end of my time at Lynn. But yeah, I mean, the challenges were those: the language, being away from my family, just adapting to a new culture, and also the money. You know, like when we were students, you know, we always struggle with you know, the money, paying the rent, whatever. When I was at Lynn, I didn't pay rent. I mean, that was covered in the university. But then when I went to Rise, then that became a little bit of a problem because I actually had to work here and there. But since I was international student, I couldn't work outside of campus. So it was only in campus. And at Lynn too, I worked. I was one of the stage crew members. So I would just, you know, set up the chairs before concerts, and yeah, that actually made it a bit easier just to, you know, have money always there because you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, summary: language, away from my family, and adapting to a new culture.
Yeah, I do feel like there's always a lot of hoops that international students have to jump through that like, people who are not international don't have to. So
Yeah.
that can be really challenging for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I mean, I bet there's like so many international students that can relate to the same things that, were challenges for you. So with that being said, changing gears just a little bit, you won your current position at the Met at such a young age. So what were some of the practices and habits that you had in order to create and achieve, your career thus far?
Well, big part of my preparation was because of my teacher at Rice. He's very known for preparing his students for orchestral auditions, and I mean orchestral auditions are not fun. I mean, I no one likes an audition. They're just the worst. But is the only way in most of the cases to gain entrance to an orchestra, and it should be that way always, right? To have an audition, but I never been happy with the process of audition, and also because it takes money to fly to the city. You got to stay in a hotel, you have to pay the fees, you have to eat around. I mean, it's an investment. So if you're going to take an audition, it's because you're really committed and prepared to do it. If people say, "Oh, I might take it, but I don't know if they're gonna win it," then don't take it. That's what my teacher said. He would say, "If you're gonna take that audition, it's because you know that you can win it. Otherwise, don't go." But the preparation, he, I mean, of course, we worked so much on the playing aspect, but also on the mental aspect, which is the most important, I think. Um, in beginning of the lessons prior to the audition, he would say, "Okay, what are we winning today? What is the audition that we're winning today? So tell me that, okay?" And we would say, "Oh, I'm winning the Met today. I'm winning because I took other auditions. I'm winning Phoenix. I'm winning that one." And that encourages you. That gives you that motivation at the beginning of your lesson. I think some other lessons maybe you're not feeling that motivated, and but that question made a difference, and we would just work very meticulously on smaller details and trying to cover everything, trying to not forget about just the small things, because I mean, in a bigger picture, let's say you're able to play most of the excerpts well, but then if someone out there is listening for the details, then that's going to be against you. And part of the preparation was doing a lot of mock auditions. I remember doing, I mean, a month before, month and a half, doing at least 4 or 5 a week with my studio mates. And also, it was very important to play for other type of ears. He would say, not only horn players, but you got to play for woodwind players, string players, because in the committee, in the audition, there will be other musicians from the other sections of the orchestra. And those other sections will be listening for other aspects. If an example of mine, I mean, I play horn. If I only play for horn players, they will be waiting for the usual crack note that happens in the excerpt. Don't miss the high C. The first note of high hand 11 didn't speak, whatever. But if you play for let's say, clarinet player, they're gonna want more clarity, maybe, and they say, "Okay, but maybe those two notes weren't that clear." So that's one thing to work on. If you play for a violin player, they said, "Well, your phrasing here is not natural. It sounds very robotic in many ways," and so then you have to work on that. So doing that was very important, and he would encourage us to do that as often as possible. So mock auditions for other people, and also to have a plan. In the list of the Met was very long. First, it was like 30, 35 excerpts, and most of them were opera excerpts. And funny enough, I never played an opera before joining the Met, so I didn't know those excerpts. So I really had to do a lot of listening with the Met. I actually took advantage of the Met Opera on Demand access that the university had. So I listened to the Met pretty much every day, playing the excerpts, would write down things, their approach to pretty much every single excerpt, and I would bring that to my practice sessions. But also I would do categories in the excerpts. 1, 2, 3. In the first category, I put the excerpts that I could play really well. Second category, I would play the excerpts that sometimes were, acceptable. Some others were just not acceptable. And third category, I would put the excerpts that really needed the most work. So by seeing that, you can actually look at your priorities and say, okay, I'm going to work in these excerpts because these are the ones that I'm not really good at. So then you're making priorities, and then you can say, okay, these are the ones that I play well. So maybe I'm going to wait on those a little bit, not start from playing those because you're just playing the ones that you can play. So these are the things that I did, and they paid off. Some days you're gonna be feeling well, some other days you're not gonna be feeling well. So to help that, I actually would start my day in different times. For example, I would start my warm up some days at 6 a.m., some other days at 8 a.m., and some other days at 3 p.m., just to see how my face would react. Because in the day of an audition, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know if your flight is going to get delayed, if your train is going to be on time, if they're going to be traffic maybe. So you just got to be, ready for whatever that comes out. But yeah, that's like a summary of my preparation.
That's amazing. I mean, there's so many things that are so relatable that you can relate to. And, for me, one of the biggest things that you said was that the mental aspect of taking auditions is so important. And I think that
Yeah.
sometimes that's the thing that people almost overlook a little bit. We're like, we can't crack notes, especially as horn players. We can't crack notes. We can't miss this note. We can't, we can't fudge this. And we always think of the technical part of auditions, the fundamentals, the rhythm, the time, but the mental aspect plays such a huge role in your preparation. So I really admire that was something that really helped you out, and that maybe people listening can definitely take into their own practice habits and everything like that as well.
Yeah, I think it's as you said, it is, for me, is the most important aspect, because if you are confident, if you trust yourself, then you will sound better. If you don't trust yourself, then that person that is you will not be there. I mean, you will be playing, but then the other aspect of your persona has to be there as well, supporting you. It's not your teacher, because your teacher won't be there with you in the audition. It's not your best friend. It's you. So if you invest a lot of time in motivating yourself and also looking for motivation around you, I mean, that makes a big difference. And I think missing notes, whatever, but the thing is to recover from that. I was going to mention, if you miss a note in an audition, then that's an opportunity to tell the committee that you can recover from it, and that didn't matter. It didn't affect my sound, my intonation, and everything. It's just I missed it, but it's okay. Leave it there and keep going as if nothing happened. And some people might even forget about that you missed a note. But then if you let it affect you, if you let it, oh, I missed the note, then you start getting frustrated, you start getting nervous, then you start getting more shaky, and then that's a problem. But then you can only work on that with time. I mean, you won't do it from, in a blink of an eye. It's got to be done, with a proper process and time. That's why mock auditions are important.
Oh my God, I love that so much. And I feel like that works for anyone who's not even going the orchestral route to like solo recitals, any other performance.
Yeah,
It's such
it
an
applies to
amazing.
pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yeah, for missing notes. And that's another thing I think that people really don't talk about very much is like the how to recover thing. That's so, so important. I love the way you said that. So going back to the Met a little bit, I know you all have been in the news a lot lately, and you don't have to comment on that necessarily, but could you please speak to how all of the Met musicians have been dealing with the pandemic as a whole and what projects you all have been working on to bring music to others?
Yeah. Well, as you said, we've been in the news a lot lately, but not for a, you know, it's usually okay. The man, we're premiering an opera. We are maybe playing in Carnegie or whatever. But the news that we've been hearing about, especially from management, it's aren't the best, and it makes me really sad that I know that there are colleagues of mine who are really struggling right now with the monetary aspect. People who have families who like any other person, they have bills to pay. They have to pay university fees. They have to pay, I mean, a lot, and with no salary, that becomes the biggest issue, the biggest problem, because you don't have that support anymore. And let's say once you win a job like the Met, you say, okay, maybe I'm not going to have to worry about that anymore. But then a pandemic hits, and no one warned you about the pandemic coming, right? We maybe saw it in the other countries, and we thought, oh, it's not going to affect us. And look where we are. And so, yeah, it's been really unfortunate that some people in the Met are not willing to help that situation, and they're deciding to furlough us, and to have us like that is really. But then because of that, we got together and said that we were gonna just do something, because we just couldn't stay there and do nothing about it. So we decided to put this series of concerts that are called the Met Opera Spotlight Series. So I mean, these are virtual concerts that chamber music mostly. For example, if someone wants to watch, they have to pay, I think it's $15 to watch the concert, and the concert is it's live, and we always have a guest, a speaker who would moderate the concert. It's usually a singer. We have had Isabel Leonard, we had Eric Owens, and I forget the first one. Oh, Matthew Polenzani was the first one, and we will have one in February 21st with Angela Georgiou from Romania. She gladly offered her help, and that means a lot, coming from such a wonderful artist, that she wanted to host the concert and help us, with promoting that. But yeah, I mean, it's just to show we just wanted to remain resilient, remain united as an orchestra, even though we were going to do it virtually, still means a lot. And and the money that is collected from those concerts goes to the people who are really in need in the orchestra. It's not like we're receiving an equal amount of money. No, if someone really is struggling with that, with the financial aspect, there they will be taken into consideration, and then some help will be granted. Yeah, but it's just to have something, because when the Met isn't paying us, then what are we gonna do with the money? But yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing. Just this series of online concerts, and we wish we could do it with an audience, but then it's risky right now, and in New York City is not allowed to have performances with audiences yet. And we hope we can be back in September. That's our hope. That's our. I'm already thinking that I'm going to be back in New York City in August, but just gotta remain hopeful and fingers crossed. But yeah, that's what we have been doing to help the cause.
Yes, definitely fingers crossed that we can
Yeah.
all be back together sooner than later. And I also love that you guys have picked up this this series of online concerts. I think that the future of music and how we bring music to other people is definitely changing, and we've talked a little bit
Yep.
about it on these bold chats. How music is gonna look a little different after this because now we know that we can do all these virtual things. Of course, they're not as exciting as in person because you don't have
Of
that
course.
energy.
Yeah.
But it's definitely really awesome that you guys are still bringing music to other people. So really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. It's difficult. It has its challenges, but it's possible. It's not, you know, what remains impossible is what is never, you know, at least tried. If you don't try, it's gonna remain impossible. So we're just trying to see what we can do to remain as united as possible in an orchestra.
Okay, so moving on to a different aspect of the Met. Here at Brass Out Loud, we sincerely believe in the power of blind auditions, and the Met Orchestra opera musicians are collectively one of the most diverse group of musicians in the nation. And we would like to know if you could speak to this point and the importance of blind auditions, as well as your own experience auditioning at the Met.
Yeah, that's for me. That's very important and mandatory. Should be mandatory for every orchestra in the world to have blind auditions because I mean it can create so many problems and forget about the word. Well, I'm gonna use this conspiracy theories about I don't know if that's the right term, but just things that maybe maybe it was because of that because of the audition wasn't blind, but for me blind auditions are the best way to select the candidate for the orchestra for the position that is going to be held. um, because it shows that they're actually only judging how the person sounds. They are not looking at the person. They don't know who the person is. They don't have their resumes because I mean, how are you gonna know that that's the person? So in other auditions, when this screen or whatever goes down, I mean, first of all, they see the person, they have their resumes, and they know who the person is. So they might have some preferences, and that will create problems. So blind auditions all the way to the finals are, I mean, extremely important because it gives more people options to just feel motivated, to feel 100% confident that wherever they come from, they will have a chance. I mean, it was my case. For example, I'm from Costa Rica, and I was in school, and I remember sending my resume for the audition, and because I was in school, they asked me for recordings to see, if I had the level. So, but it was an unlabeled CD recording, so only the manager could look at the name. But then the members of the section didn't see my name. It was only okay. Let's listen. Okay, yeah, let's invite this person. But then once you show up to the audition, um, first of all, the committee is in a completely different room. Um, you don't have access to your phone. You have to give your phone to the manager, and the manager locks it in a room. So it's very fair. No one has access to anything. You're only waiting for your turn to play. And I saw people from other countries. I remember seeing people from Germany, from Netherlands. I think there was another Latin person, but I forget where from because it wasn't in the same round as me. But you see people from other places, and that's a wonderful thing. That the Met is giving an opportunity. It's an equal opportunity employer. I think that's how you call it, and that's how it should be. If you want to audition for a job, just go out and try it. Regardless of where you come from. Again, so I mean, the audition consists in 3 rounds. The first one, play maybe 5 excerpts. They do it in a way that is tricky, because I mean there are so many people auditioning that they have to, they can listen for 10 minutes each person, because they would, it would be forever. So they do it in a way that is tricky, and that is like, okay, if I make a mistake here, then you're out. It's kind of crucial and kind of rude, but it's the only way. Then the second round is with less people and more excerpts, so it's going to take a bit more time. Then the third round is got like a whole page of excerpts, and it was just me and another guy. And yeah, I mean, at that point, it's just awful. You're just all these thoughts of like, you might win, you might not win. You're not gonna get this. All the money you've spent. Don't miss notes. Maybe they don't want you. So I mean, all these thoughts are gonna get in your head, but you have to be able to just put them aside and say, let me do my thing. Let me do my work, and we'll talk afterwards. But yeah, blind auditions. They every to gain entrance to an orchestra should be like that, and must be that way, because otherwise it's going to create a lot of problematic comments, and comments against the institution who's hiring people, because you're actually seeing the person. And even if there isn't any preference of any kind, there will be comments, and they have to know, the institutions have to be aware that it will be a problem. So the best solution is just to have blind auditions all the way. So that's the way to go. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't find Zoom. So many windows. So we have a bonus question that is a surprise to you, but we are wondering what you have been doing through the pandemic to stay busy and sane. And I know that you're in Costa Rica now, and that's obviously very different than being in New York. So I'm interested in hearing how your routine has changed as well.
Yeah, well, at first I remained very, very active with the horn. I was practicing every day for like 4 or 5 hours. But then after 3 months, I was like, maybe, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to start doing something else. I think there is more life outside of my home. But, we were quarantined, and everyone was very afraid of going outside, rightfully so. So I just never went out. So I stayed here, practiced a lot. But then after those 3 months, I was like, well, I'm in Costa Rica. I'm with my family. Maybe I'm going to start spending more time, just doing other activities. And one of the things that I started doing again, because I used to be in a mountain biking team before going to the United States. So I, rejoined the team, but not with the entire team, just a couple of guys. And we go for occasional bike rides up the mountain. We didn't go to the city. We just go up the hills, because there's less people, less chance of getting infected. Of course, you're only going to see cows, and the cows probably don't have the virus. And so that, just to free up my mind, helped a lot, just to remain sane, as you said. Also, I got a fish tank that I take care every day, and I love just looking at the fish. It's so relaxing. But then I started reading more about the fish, reading more about their anatomy and everything. So I actually took a course on aquarium care, and it was fascinating. So that helped me to have a balance. So I would bike in the mornings, maybe go to the course in the afternoons, and then practice at night, practice maybe in the morning. But then I also started teaching a lot, offered a lot of free lessons to students in Latin America, and that had actually a good result. I remember just sending out emails to music schools in different countries and say, hey, if you want your own students to have several lessons with me, I'll do it free of charge. But then I stopped with it a little bit because I wanted to focus on other things, but I'm retaking that. I'm trying to do that again more often. And I'm in fact teaching in a festival that is in Mexico. It's called the Azteca Academy. So I will be teaching them for about 2 months, and it'll be fun. I mean, in these times, in these pandemic times, whatever we can do to, for example, help your community or the musical community, and I mean, it is very welcome. Because not a lot of people have the financial possibilities to pay regular lessons, and even more so now when they're home. So I said, I'm just that's gonna be kind of like me donating something to the cause, me doing something for the cause. So I just started doing that. The lessons were not public. I would do them privately because I didn't want to have, just maybe a lot of people joining at the time and dealing with people turning off their mics. So I would do them privately, but I would email directly to music schools. And I also did a project. I did had like 2 seasons, warm-up sessions with the students from Costa Rica. And I invited a total of, I think it was 45 horn players of mostly United States and Europe to lead a warm-up sessions. And we did it for a whole month. We had 31 guests. And then we had a break. And then we had one in December, January. We had 10 more. And the students are like, okay, when are we going to do them again? But I'm like, well, I'm doing other things. I'm actually working on a project that I have to retake. I have to just go back to it. I want to record a CD of Costa Rican music with horn and piano. And I already talked with the pianist. The pianist made all the arrangements. We rehearsed for like 2 months last year, but then we stopped because of personal things. But then we were retaking the rehearsals in about a month. And it's a project that I want to do before I go back to the United States, because once I leave, I am not going to have enough time to record and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing, biking a lot, the fishes, teaching here and there, but mostly just time here with my family, breathing some fresh air from the mountains, eating a lot of great food. And I gotta be careful with that. Maybe I'll gain a lot of weight, but I can compensate that with the bike. So
I love that. It sounds like you've been so busy, and I've definitely been keeping up with your fishes and your aquarium. So that's really cool that you took a course on that.
yeah, it's because I wanted to learn more about. I just didn't want them to die day by day. I wanted to give them, quality of life. So and they are there. I mean, they're probably eating right now.
That's amazing. And it's so great that you have been teaching all of these lessons. I know Kiku Collins, a trumpet player who was on our Bold faculty, was saying that once you're in this position of power, once you have a position of power, you should use it for good. And I think that you're definitely an example of that, of giving back to not only your community, but to other communities. So that's like super admirable. And thank you for that. So sort of address our Facebook chat, we do have a question from Tom Savage, and he asks, as a middle school teacher, trumpet player, what is some advice I could give to a player switching to horn from trumpet?
Ooh, horn from trumpet. Well, I mean, sound is everything on any instrument, so tell them to focus on a good sound, because that's basically our identity on the instrument. So if we work on sound, we're going to work on our identity. When we play, is our chance to tell people, this is who I am, this is how I sound like, and I want to share that with you. So I always tell that to students and to people. So sound, of course, and of course, I mean, we know all the tricks. Listen to good recordings. For me, long tones are essential. long tones all the way. You know, I start with long tones every day. I finish with long tones. That's my, you know, warm up and cool down. And yeah, just go slow. You know, just take your time. I mean, horn. Well, this student already knows how to play a brass instrument. So if you're going to switch to horn, it's going to be a bit more. What's the word? I mean, let's say it's going to be easier for the student, but if you start, you know, out of nothing, then it's just frustrating just to see that the instrument isn't responding, and then you're not sounding very good. But yeah, just, you know, be patient. Always go with good sound, and maybe don't expand the ranges too quick. Focus on just a couple of notes that sound really good, and then expand from there. You know, expand to the upper range and then lower range. Don't just start hitting notes in the upper range, for example, out of nothing, because you always have to work on something from a point of quality, a good quality. So if you're going to work on something, it's got to come from something that you do really well. If you start out of nothing, then you will create bad habits. So patience, focus on good sound, long tones. That would be my advice.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom, for your question. We do have another question from Gustavo Liete. He says, Hugo, I know Hugo is such a huge coffee guy. What grain is the best? Costa Rica, Colombian, or Brazilian?
Oh, man, come on. Well, I mean, I'm going to say it is, of course. I respect Costa Rican coffee, Colombian coffee, and Brazilian, but, you know, I'm from here. I drink Costa Rican coffee most of the time, but I feel welcome to ship some Brazilian coffee. I would gladly accept it, and then make a review maybe on a Facebook Live. No, I'm just kidding. But Costa Rican coffee, you know, I'm biased, of course, but I love coffee wherever it comes from. It's just, you know, I'm drinking coffee pretty much every day. I got to a point that I don't even get shaky. It's just, I just drink coffee. You know, even playing the operas, I'm actually drinking coffee. I have a little thermos. And when I'm counting rests, I'm just, you know, sipping coffee here and there. There was a time that the principal horn, Eric, would ask me, how do you just keep drinking coffee and coffee? And I'd be like, I was born with it. So Javier, too, one of my colleagues, he's from Puerto Rico. So he's the same way. You know, we're both drinking coffee pretty much at every time. During rehearsals, you know, whenever we have a break, we go, coffee? Okay, we just sprint to the cafeteria, get a coffee, be back before the crowd hits and gets crowded in the cafeteria. Get out of there with a coffee just in time. So, but Costa Rican coffee. Sorry, Gustavo.
Amazing. So anybody else who has questions on Facebook, maybe you're watching this at a later date, please feel free to leave them. We can always get those questions to Hugo, and I'm sure he'd love to answer any questions that are maybe just not coming up on our feed right now. So with that being said, we have our last question for you. And just kind of, we always end with this question. We ask all of our guests this. So this would be, what does your ideal brass community look like?
Ideal brass community look like? Well, I want to see a brass community that is diverse, that knows about the potential of other countries, that is conformed by members worldwide, not only in one place. You know, it's the ideal community is also a community that wants to help, you know, motivate people to join, because you know, as brass players, we are part of hopefully ensembles, you know, orchestras, bands, or we also teach people. So I mean, that community that pretty much is conformed by a lot of aspects. We want it to be engaging. just to tell people that it's welcomes everyone, and that if they have something great to offer, that it will be, you know, it would be appreciated no matter where it comes from. So unity and diverse, that would be that, you know, that is diverse, and, you know, that you can look at, let's say, brass communities in this country, and you see a strong brass community that is committed to do that wherever they are, you know. I would say diverse, just to put it that way. Brass community, diverse.
Perfect. Well, Hugo, thank you so much for being here today with us. And just to wrap up a little bit, reminders that there are links to donate to the Met Orchestra musicians. There are links to donate to Brass Out Loud. And with that being said, we are running a flash sale for long sleeve t-shirts and crew necks. If you are interested, please see our Facebook page for more information, our Instagram page. And we're only running this through the end of the month. So if you want a t-shirt or a crew neck, definitely check it out and get at it. So with that being said, again, Hugo, thank you so much for being here today. You had a lot of words of wisdom that, you know, we really appreciate on our end, and I'm sure people watching really appreciate on their end too. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun, and, you know, great answers too. I mean, questions to the answers. Sorry, my bad.
You had the great answers.
No, just great questions, and then I was able to answer them, you know, well. Yeah, but yeah, well, I'm actually gonna order one of those shirts, so I'm gonna, you know, go to the link and order one, and yeah, to everyone who's still watching, oh, sorry, have a good one, stay safe, and you know, stay active.